Hello, I'm Allison.
And I'm Allison.
And welcome to A Squared. Today we'll read some horrible and corny pickup lines.
We'll play Try Not to Make Me Laugh.
You'll hear some news from all 50 states in a minute 30.
And finally, we'll be joined by Butterfly Blaze and a panel of students in order to discuss the objectification of women.
So, are you from Tennessee? 'Cause you're the only 10 I see.
Hee hee hee. That was sad. Well, we've gathered some horrible and corny pickup lines to read to all of you out there and make you just as uncomfortable as us.
Would you like to go first?
You can go.
You go first.
You know what? You already did one. I'll go first. My lips are like Skittles. Want to taste the rainbow?
If nothing lasts forever, will you be my nothing?
If you were a library book, I would check you out.
My love for you is like diarrhea. I just can't hold it in.
Are you cake? 'Cause I want a piece of that.
Baby, your sure has to go, but you can stay.
You are hotter than the bottom of my laptop.
Ooh, that's hot. Is your face McDonald's? Because I'm loving it.
My doctor says I'm lacking vitamin U.
Do you have an inhaler? Because you take my breath away.
8 planets, 1 universe, 1.735 billion people, and I end up with you.
Your mom must be a chicken, because you look excellent.
I don't want to read this one. Are you Luke? 'Cause I'm your daddy. Daddy kinks.
If I were a transplant surgeon, I'd give you my heart.
Pinch me. You're so fine, I must be dreaming.
Your lips look lonely. Would they like to be mine?
We're not socks, but I'd like to think we make a great pair.
Even if there wasn't gravity on Earth, I'd still fall for you.
Well, here I am. What were your other 2 wishes?
I'm new in town. Could you give me directions to your place?
God, that was painful.
Do you feel uncomfortable?
Very uncomfortable.
And you know who else felt uncomfortable? Tim and Sean when they were spitting water in each other's faces. So, when we come back, we'll be joined by Tim Cartmel and Sean Alexis to see how long it takes the 2 of them to make each other laugh.
So don't change that channel, and we'll be right back. Welcome to PS News. I'm Emily Hampton, and here are tonight's top stories. New Zealand has now joined the UK and...
Welcome back to A Squared. Tonight's game, we paired together 2 friends to see who can make who laugh the most, while the other person has water in their mouths.
So we asked our friends, Tim Cartmel and Sean Alexis, to join us at Hawkins Pine, and well, let's see how that turned out.
Hey guys, welcome to the game show! Today, we have Tim, and we have Sean, and we're gonna see if Sean can make Tim laugh. You think you can do it?
Tim laughs at everything. I think I got this.
Well, let's see how long it takes you, man.
Alright.
How long do you think it's gonna take?
It depends.
It's so windy out.
Oh, it is windy. So, when do we begin?
Now.
Alright. So, Tim, do you remember that time we went to Walmart and he was trying to talk to that cashier? I said a name, bleep it out. How much did he have in his bank account, Tim? So there, we have this friend who tried to talk to the cashier. And he tried to buy, $3 hair product, and his card got declined. So he tried it again, and the card got declined again. The cashier started to laugh at him. The issue is, he liked the cashier a lot and wanted to take her on a date or something. So she offered to pay for him with like nickels and dimes. It was bad. There was enough. He's not here anymore, by the way. He kind of failed out. You have this other friend. She makes really dumb decisions. She likes to blame me for all of her faults in life. Over the past couple weekends, she said, and I quote, "Sean, I blame you for all the diseases I got."
So Tim, that is some saliva water.
It is gross.
Dripping.
No, it is gross.
So, Tim, you want to get some revenge on Sean?
I don't know if I can, but I'll try. All right.
Sean, take a big sip.
That's water.
I mean, hopefully it's water. So, Sean, you know that coffee maker that you have? So, when your mom was just sending up some stuff, and she just wanted to care for you, and just had to send a whole, 200 pack of hazelnut creamer. Do you have an EpiPen? No? Does she know that you're allergic? I don't think so. God damn it. Alright, ready? Why did Luis and Jay fail out? Where are they? Why was Jay working for the Vietnamese dom? At least I had the courtesy to sit away.
I'll try.
So thank you guys both for coming out. I hope you both get a shower because you need to wash the spit off of you.
Group of your shower.
But thank you so much. Have a great day, and we'll be right back. Hello and welcome back. It's time for a Minute 30, where I try to deliver 50 different stories in 1 minute and 30 seconds. Are you ready? Start the timer.
Alabama plays sports. Alaska has a lot of murders. Arizona's going to have rain. Arkansas's being Arkansas. California has a shark attack. Colorado inmates clean up the mountains. Connecticut is losing trees. Delaware's losing breweries. Florida's nursing home loses power because of iguana. Georgia's owl diversity increases. Hawaii sales tourism. Idaho's prepping for Halloween. Illinois does things. Indiana plays sports. Iowa has rain. Kansas is getting paid by Uber. Kentucky plays football. Louisiana plays Alabama. Maine has art made by Moose Scoop. Maryland has new laws. Massachusetts has politics. Michigan plays football. Minnesota has a campaign war. Mississippi likes politics and football. Missouri has birds. Montana's raising minimum wage. Nebraska likes football. Nevada has a lot of new voters. New Hampshire pumpkin is the heaviest. New Jersey has sent a lot of people to jail. New Mexico is having an okay day. Kennesaw man in New York is charged in New York. North Carolina has a lot of pets. North Dakota likes football, of course. Ohio is Ohio. Oklahoma University is undefeated. Can't be a crazy cat lady in Oregon. Pennsylvania has a wallaby. Rhode Island exists. South Carolina extends voting because of floods. South Dakota does things. Tennessee Vice President blames girls for everything. Texas is still warm. Utah officials can now use corn as bait. Vermont is nice. Virginia has affordable wine. Washington is moody. West Virginia has hype videos. Wisconsin has a lot of flooding. Wyoming has a crash. And that will be a Minute 30. When we come back, we'll be joined by Butterfly Blaze and a panel of our peers to discuss the objectification of women, as well as sexual assault and domestic violence. Stay tuned.
Morning, Gary. We are GetSchooled.com. You want a college education, don't you? You know you do. That's why we're here. We're free and here to guide you through every step of the way, starting with attendance. Gary, financial aid forms. Picking a college, man. You and us. We go together like tacos and Tuesday.
And I love tacos. Go to GetSchooled.com.
The sport of jiu-jitsu is mainly for You can use it for self-defense. That's the number one reason it appeals to people. There's other people who come to this club for the competition aspect, and also a lot of others who do it for the workout aspect. It has multiple ways of appealing to different audiences, and you should come give it a try. You might like it.
If you drive buzzed, it could cost you around $10,000. You'll face major legal fees, major fines, and steep insurance penalties. You could lose everything. Buzzed, busted, and broke. Because buzz driving is drunk driving.
Hello and welcome back. It's time for some real talk.
Before we begin to dive deep into our topic for the night, we would like to give a warning to our viewers watching tonight. We will be discussing some topics that may be hard to hear, such as rape and domestic violence. If these topics make you uncomfortable or you may trigger you, please change the channel.
If you or anyone you know are currently in an abusive relationship, please contact the National Domestic Violence Hotline at 1-800-799-7233. And if anyone you know are survivors of sexual assault or sexual harassment and are struggling, please let them know they are not alone. If you are struggling, please contact the National Sexual Assault Hotline at 800-656-HOPE. Or if you have any thoughts of suicide, please text CONNECT to 741-741 to be connected to the National Suicide Hotline. And from everyone here at A Squared, please know you are not alone, and we stand by you and we believe you.
Now let's meet our first guest, Butterfly Blaze.
Hi.
Hello.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thank you.
Cool. So, first question is really to explain what Title IX is, because you work in the Title IX office.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes. So Title IX is a federal law that says that no one on the basis of gender or sex can be discriminated against, denied equal access, or excluded on any K through 12 or higher education institution that's receiving federal funding. So it's part of the 1972 Education Amendment, which on its base really came out of the fact that girls and women weren't getting equal access to athletics, but it's really expanded to include things such as sexual and interpersonal violence, gender discrimination, and in my role on campus, I oversee our efforts for those things, whether it's compliance with federal or state law, outreach, education, resources, but also investigation of reports of any of those things. So aside from Title IX, though the office is called Title IX, it's important that you know that much of what governs what we do at SUNY Plattsburgh is 129B, which is a New York State law, which has even higher requirements than our federal mandates.
Wow. So going off of like the women's athletic thing that you mentioned, how does just streaming the women's game fill the Title IX instead of broadcasting them here on PSTV as well?
So I think there's something that we always have to take into consideration with compliance. Compliance is really about checking boxes. So streaming makes us compliant with federal law. It does not make us in the best case or equitable scenario. So from my perspective, it's never good enough if we're just checking a box. So if we are showing men's hockey games live, we should be doing the same with our women's hockey games. Let's not to mention that they have a better record, but I'm just putting it out there. So that's something to think about.
Yeah. So back to your office.
Yes.
On average, how many cases would you say you get like on campus, like around like sexual assault, sexual harassment? Like how many cases do you like on average get?
So we get between 100 and 170 per year. So in 2017, I had 160 cases that I processed through the Title IX office. So that would include cases of gender discrimination, sexual harassment, sexual violence, so that includes sexual assault and rape. That also would include interpersonal violence, so stalking, domestic violence, dating violence. All of our statistics are public information. So if you were to go to the SUNY Plattsburgh page, put in Title IX and go under campus initiatives, you would get reports. And on that reports, you would see our reports going back to 2014. So that gives you a sense of how things have changed on campus in terms of reporting. But they've been pretty consistent in terms of the amount. Though last year, which I think was partly connected to what was happening nationally, we had a bit of a peak in reports that were happening.
Do you think that's because there was a peak in it happening, or just a peak in people finally coming out and reporting it?
So if you look at national statistics, our 160 reports over a year sounds like a lot to some people, and it is a lot. One report is too many as far as I'm concerned, but nationally that's still below the national average. So the thing that's important to look at if you look at those statistics on our website is you will see an increase in reports from 2014 to 2017. The reason why that's important is because that doesn't signify that we have more violence on campus. There's actually much more that still never gets reported. What that signifies is that people are feeling safer to come forward and make reports that they've been harmed. So it's actually good to have an increase in those reports. The goal, however, is that if we're doing everything right, eventually that curve's going to go back down in the other direction because we've changed the culture of our campus where people are safe and everyone's working together to end violence.
Do you find that more people report like anonymously rather than having, I guess it kind of like get further investigation?
So what's interesting is there aren't a lot of repeatable trends year to year. So what I mean by that is I never know what to expect each semester as to, I can't really compare it to the previous spring semester or the previous fall semester. There seems to be things that kind of happen more in clumps, but not over that longer period of time. So this semester, I have received over a handful of anonymous reports since the beginning of the semester. That's more than we've received previously. Most of the reports that I receive happen face-to-face through official reporting. So people either just coming into my office without an appointment or making an appointment via email. They're sometimes referred from housing and residence life if the report starts there. Sometimes counseling services if they have permission. So it very seldom actually is through the anonymous reporting system.
Why do you think people report anonymously for that handful of people? Like, why do you think that they report anonymously?
So I think the other important thing to think about is many of the anonymous reports that I've received this year, people have chose to include their names or some sort of information that allows me to get in touch with them. So what I think, and I can't know because I'm not that person filing that report, but what my perception of that is that it's kind of that first step to beginning to have a conversation about it. So if they're able to do that through a computer screen and kind of, navigate that in a way that they have control, in many ways that's a first step to move into that process. And it helps you to understand, how now is, in this situation, Butterfly going to respond to this? Am I going to get a response that I'm still in the driver's seat, or what's that response going to be? So it allows them to have some control on that perspective. From the other perspective, if someone's truly sending an anonymous report where there's no information to track back to them, often they want to communicate something to me. So maybe they want to tell me the name of a perpetrator, and they want me to have that on record because something that I do is keep track of statistics. So even if I don't have the person's name who's reporting that they've been harmed, I still may be able to start to track patterns of abusive behavior if a perpetrator's name is coming up multiple times. They might also want to let us know about places on campus or in the outer community that they don't feel safe. So sometimes I'll get messages about that. And so we will do what we can with that information.
What do you believe is the ratio between women reporting and men reporting stuff like this? Or at least what is the ratio like here on this campus?
99.9 to point, it's a very huge ratio. I get very few reports where men are reporting that they've had violence perpetrated against them. though last semester in 2017, I believe I had about 5, which is a big step. Because I think in many ways there's this narrative out there that it's only women who are harmed and it's only men who are perpetrators. Number one, that's very binary. Not everyone fits on the binary in terms of their gender identification. But 2, men are harmed as well. So there's a lot of stigma around coming forward if you are harmed and you identify as a man, because society has created kind of these expectations of what it means to be a man. And many of those expectations tell a man that, you know, you're supposed to be strong, you're supposed to be resilient, you're not supposed to feel things, people can't harm you because you're the man. So it's a barrier. So one of our huge goals with prevention and education, which I feel we still have a long way to go, is to break down stigma that exists so that people who are less likely to report will come forward and report.
So now going to like national.
Yes.
Off the campus to national. We've recently seen a lot about it in the news. A lot of women stepping forward, especially with celebrities, things like that. Do you think the recent movements, such as like the Me Too movement, do you think like that brought that out, more people wanting to come forward? Because a lot of these cases happened 30 years ago,
right? And
these women are now coming forward. Do you feel like these new campaigns that are coming forward and this new acceptance, but also like this fear because of what's been going on, is kind of making people want to come forward?
I think that it's driving the pendulum in a different direction, and I think that's really important. And I think, you know, social media is very powerful, and it's often not used as a tool to create change or social change. And I think that's the really powerful thing that's happening right now around the Me Too movement, or other movements that are occurring surrounding the political climate and what's happening. But I think it's also important to know that these movements existed prior to Facebook and other social media. You know, a lot of people link the Me Too movement to celebrities. Celebrities didn't create that. A black woman named Tamara Burke created that movement back in the late 1999 or 2000. So it's important not to lose that, because I think what happens too that we need to be aware of from an intersectional perspective is that these movements are great as long as they're not leaving people behind, or they're not silencing or making people feel like they're invisible. So I think it's important to point out that part. But I do think that a lot of people that experience sexual violence or interpersonal violence feel like they're alone. One of the reasons being that often the person that harms them tells them, you know, no one will believe you, no one will support you, and they make you feel you know, inferior and helpless. So knowing that other people have had similar experiences to you as you and are empowered enough to speak out in public forums helps to make other people feel safer and connected. And so sometimes it's not even about the need to tell your own story, though that's a really important part of it. It's about the need to connect with other human beings that have had a similar experience. So I think that that has really shifted the climate in a way that we have not seen in decades.
Speaking of that whole coming together thing, I went to the event in the spring semester that you held. I can never remember what it's called, but it's the one where, oh my God, you come and everyone kind of tells their story, but all the lights are off, and we do that big walk.
Yes.
Yeah.
So our office doesn't put on that event, though we're
But
present.
I know that you were there, yeah.
I just want to make sure that it's on camera that we did not, we weren't responsible for that. A wonderful student organization, Center for Women's Concerns, puts that event on each year. And that is a great opportunity. It's called Take Back the Night. That's been happening not just nationally, but globally for a very long time. And it's done differently in different environments. Like for instance, at UVM, they do it out in broad daylight without, you know, a dark room or microphones or things of that nature. So it's an opportunity for people to speak out their stories, remain anonymous if they'd like to. And then the purpose of the march is to say, you know, we will not be silent. We are going to take back our safety in these streets. We are going to take back these environments. So it's a very empowering experience, but it also demonstrates solidarity.
So kind of going along the lines of like the whole Take Back the Night, why do you think that so many cases with like rape and domestic violence are spun to make it seem as though it's the woman's fault?
It's always the victim's fault. Not even the
Yeah.
victim, it's the survivor's fault.
So that goes back to this being a much bigger issue than the violence that it's occurring. We are never going to end violence, gendered violence, violence against women, anyone, unless we start to break down the systems that allow this violence to exist. And those systems involve the way in which we socially groom one another to think about social expectations and how a woman should behave and how a man should behave, and that, again, that gender's binary and so on and so forth. So when you're groomed in a way to think that there's a certain way that you should behave as a woman, and then men or boys in many capacities are taught that their worth is based off of their achievement, often their conquest of those women and girls, which comes out in objectification and so on and so forth, it's really difficult to deconstruct those mistruths. You know, I talk to a lot of women who come to college and I say, what did your parents say to you before you came to college? And some of them talked about their mothers sending them with brass knuckles and tasers and pepper spray. And I'm thinking, first of all, where's your mother hanging out?
Yeah, my mom gave me one of those pocket guardian things
Yes.
where it has like the siren when you press the button,
Yeah.
and it has a flashlight on it too, and I keep it on my keychain.
My mom gave me pepper spray, and for Christmas, she gave my sister and I these things. You keep it in your bag, and you pull on the keychain, and it starts like pretty much it's screaming.
Okay.
My cousin's husband tried to give me brass knuckles. He tried.
You didn't take them.
No, I should not take them.
Well, so I think there's a different ways to understand why that narrative is really problematic. It's never bad to take safety precautions.
Yeah.
We all should be taking safety precautions. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is when you go through a checklist of what girls and women should do not to be harmed, rather than telling the people who are harming them, don't harm people, you are really not addressing the issue. And furthermore, then those girls and women, if we're specifically talking about girls and women, when they are harmed, go back down that checklist and think, I didn't do this, I didn't do this, I didn't do this. And then it leads to that self-blame of, well, maybe it wasn't what I thought it was because I didn't follow these rules or this checklist that was given to me. So I think that that's really problematic in that sense. And that leads to an environment where, again, it's easy to blame the victim because we're saying, well, if you hadn't been out drinking so much, someone wouldn't have been able to take advantage of you. Or if you weren't dressing in a certain sort of way. I'm here to tell you that 90% of the time, people that harm other people, they know them, they trust them, they're in an environment where they feel safe. So you're not gonna pull out your brass knuckles on your math partner in your dorm room because you're not prepared for it. So the conversations need to be much different. And the fact of the matter is, it's not well, it is my job, so I'm not going to say that, but outside of my job, it's not individuals' jobs to figure out whether what someone's reporting is the truth or not. So we need to be in a place of not judging others and validating their experiences and then connecting them to the right people to get them the support they need.
Yeah.
So the whole point of this and like having you on here right now is to talk about objectifying women.
Okay.
So one of the questions that we kind of came up with before is like, what are your opinions on objectifying women? So, I mean, if you want to just go for that.
How long do we have? So my opinion on objectifying women is, again, that it's culturally accepted as a norm. It starts very early on, and the way in which we prepare for children from the minute of conception really. You know, we're planning for, is it a boy, is it a girl? And we often refer to it as gender when the reality is we're misusing that term. And we kind of have these expectations of what boxes girls and boys are supposed to fit into, because of course in much of our society, only those two boxes exist. So very early on, it's not just boys that are being taught to objectify women. It is women being taught that they are an object of objectification. So that leads to competition among other girls and women and other people, because you're constantly trying to rate yourself to a scale that shouldn't exist. And it's not even accurate, you know? I mean, no one really looks the way anyone wants us to look, right? So I think in terms of the objectification, we're teaching it to everyone. And the problem is that the people who have more of the power to change it, it often serves them. So it is less likely to have the people who are not girls and women and not experiencing sexual harassment or objectification on a daily basis to step up and say, we need to stop this. This is not acceptable. So I do not like it. I correct it if I see it. I correct it if it's occurring to me, around me. I raise my children differently. I speak about it in the different contexts of the spaces that I am. But I think currently the only power we have is the power to not model that same behavior, change the way we're approaching it, and hold our peer groups to the same standards.
Yeah. All right, well, on that note, we're gonna wrap this interview up. And when we come back, we will be joined with a few people for a panel discussion on our opinions and personal stories of objectification of women. So stay tuned. Thank you.
You're watching PSTV Charter 190.
There's one thing you can never have sex without.
It's not something you buy.
Or something you take.
In fact, there's only one way to get it.
It has to be given to you, freely.
It's consent.
Because sex without it isn't sex.
It's rape. Consent.
If you don't get it, you don't get it. It's on us to stop sexual assault.
Learn how and take the pledge at itsonus.org.
Welcome back to Real Talk, where we are joined by a panel of peers to discuss the objectification of women.
Welcome! Hi! How are you guys doing?
We're good.
Good.
Oh, I'm good.
So, we're going to be discussing objectification of women.
So first off, let's go with your thoughts and opinions, and maybe any stories of any time.
Any personal stories you guys might like to share about it with your own experience.
Well, I guess I can jump in and take the mic. So growing up in Brooklyn and like being raised by like a single parent for like half of my life, because like my mom and dad split up, like there would be certain things that my mother would tell me, and like I know that she doesn't mean it, like it's not malicious, but she would say things like when I would go to work, because I started working in retail this summer, and you know I worked at Charlotte Russe and they're like high-key bougie, so they're like, you have to dress up. So I want to go to work feeling pretty about myself, so I have like this kind of like high-waisted like short corduroy skirt, like it's appropriate enough for work, but when I would go out, because I would have to walk past like this park, because my neighborhood is a Jewish neighborhood, then you go over one block and that's what's considered like the hood, even though there's like a precinct right there. So like I would walk past them, and these are people I've grown up with all my life or whatever, and like the first thing was, oh, where are you going to go catch some man's attention, you know, oh, you're trying to find yourself a husband, like you're not getting any younger. And it's like, they say it jokingly, but it's like, first of all, you don't know what my sexual orientation is, that's one. Two, like, I'm going to work, like that's not something, when I get dressed every single day, I'm not thinking about who I'm going out to please. I'm looking for myself, I'm struggling with my own body confidence, and that's something that I want to work on. So like, if I wear a tight black dress and a kimono, I'm looking pretty for myself. If people stare, like even though I'm uncomfortable with it, if I capture someone's attention, that's what happens, but that doesn't mean that I'm necessarily looking for it. If you choose to look, you choose to look. I'm choosing to be pretty, and that's my choice, and that's what I'm living with basically. Like I'm not trying to please anyone, because honestly I could, to be quite frank, I don't care about what people say. It's about how I'm feeling on the inside and how I want to reflect that. And now that I'm getting a bit older, you know, changing my mindset, changing how I view my body, changing how I view the world, changing how I walk the streets nowadays, like just more confident, being more at home with like myself basically. So I really like most of the time I use fashion to convey that. Not in Plattsburgh though, because up here I don't care. Yeah, I'm just
too cold to
sleepy,
care.
so I love the cold, but I'm just like really sleepy all the time. So yeah, it's a lot.
Hoodies and sweats.
Hoodies and sweats,
Yeah.
honestly.
Going off of fashion, because you actually brought up an experience that I've had is I live with my grandparents. So grandparents are kind of like grandpa's old and traditionalist. So with him and stuff like that, so it's basically with like dresses and everything like that, he always makes a remark of like, are you wearing shorts, or like that's too short, but it's like, it's fine, it's not gonna, you know, come up unless it's Marilyn Monroe time and, you know, gust of wind just comes up underneath, but like, I'm like, you know, I just kind of brush it off. You know, sometimes like wear like Spanx or something underneath, but like, you know, it really doesn't, it's, you know, who's gonna be lifting up the skirt, so. But it's just like, I always get like those kind of comments because, you know, he's just old.
It's normal. That's what's normal for him.
Yeah.
I used to actually just avoid dresses altogether because I didn't like any of the comments that I would get. It would either be that it's too short, so you know, I'm a slut, or if it was too long, you're a prude. So I just avoided dresses altogether, and I would even avoid like shorts. Like I would wear capris and pants, and that's it. But it takes a lot to try and like reclaim the fashion and like how you feel about yourself. And I feel like that's a lot of things that people do later, and like girls do later in life, because shorts are cute, dresses are cute. I like wearing them. So to have avoided them for so long,
Because what people are saying.
Yeah.
It sucks. It sucks.
Well, and the things that people are saying to you are making you view yourself completely differently. Like whenever someone would make a comment about like how I was dressing, it would make me look at myself a completely different way, and I would have like, and I suffer from extremely low self-esteem about how I look. And about what I wear, because I feel that I have to be very covered up, because if I'm not, I'm like, someone's gonna say something and then that's gonna make me feel really bad about myself, because how dare I do this? You know, and I think about, I'm like, oh, how would my dad feel? Because I love my parents and I love my father. My father is one of my #1 supporters, and I would never want to disappoint him in my entire life. And same thing for my mom. I'd never want to disappoint her, and that's goes back to my fashion. Like, I feel like if I dress a certain way, then I'm somehow disappointing my parents, and I shouldn't have to feel that way. I should be able to wear whatever I want. Like, I don't wear shorts. I don't wear shorts, and it's not because of my parents. It's because I have this weird idea built up in my head because someone made a comment that I had ugly knees.
Oh,
that sucks.
And that followed me through childhood. Up until now, where I can't wear shorts. I can't wear anything. Like, if I wear dresses, I have to wear stockings underneath, because I can't let anyone see my knees, because it's that whole, I have this fear that if people see something that's considered ugly about me, I won't be as valued as a person. And that comes back to the whole, women are only valued for their beauty and attractiveness.
I actually had to sit down with my sister. She just graduated from high school. So she got a lot of just like the dress code and everything, and she's a sports kid, so she was around like all the football players all the time and everything. So I had to sit her down because she would only dress in like, she would only buy from the men's section. She would only dress in cargo shorts, like basketball shorts, cargo shorts, that's all she wore. And I had to sit her down and be like, listen, if this is your style, that's okay, but like, also, if this is because like of the guys or like an other influence, like it's okay to try and like be comfortable with who you are and like to not let them get to you. So I had to sit down and have a nice heart-to-heart with her on that.
Which I feel like that in itself is actually really sad, that you have to sit there and have like these conscious talks with people. Like with my siblings, most of my family like consist of women, and like there's a lot of internalized misogyny in my family, and they say certain things, and it's just like they shame, like the women in my family are very quick to shame people based on their sexual history or sexual preferences. And there's like this running joke in my family that like I'm a lesbian because I haven't brought any guys home, like back home to them. But it's like, one, I built myself up, my self-esteem up from like high school, because like the last serious relationship I had was in high school, and that person did not make me feel good. That person made me feel like I was his, and it's like that's not how relationships are supposed to work. So I'm not bringing anyone around unless one, I feel 100% comfortable with them. They're building up my self-esteem. We're both benefiting off of each other, and we're just building each other up because we're grown. We don't have time to be playing these games where you're saying misogynistic things. I'm about to be 20 years old. I get that that's pretty young in the scheme of things, but I don't need any of that energy in my life, and I tell my family that, and like, they say that I'm like trying to force this feminist agenda on my little sisters, because my sister Jayla it's her birthday today, I love her.
Happy birthday.
She's like such a fashionista, and she goes through like 3 different outfits a day, because like she changes, she likes to do her hair, like, you know, it's really long, and she says that she braids it, she puts like spray paint in it, and my mom lets her do it, because I tell my mom, I'm like, don't ever let her stifle her creativity. So Jayla has like, she likes wearing biker shorts, and like, you know, biker shorts are now a trend.
Yeah.
So she'll wear biker shorts, and then she'll wear like an emoji t-shirt to the park. And then there'll be people in my neighborhood that'll say to my mother, oh, well, how would you feel if her father, like, you know, how would her father feel if she's coming outside like that? She's 9 years old, that's one. We're not about to sit here and sexualize a child. And I feel like a lot of people do it. A lot of people say certain things, it's like, oh, well, I wouldn't let my child wear that because she looks too grown. You are sexualizing a child. And I feel like everyone thinks, when they think of sexualizing children, it's, oh, well, I'm not a pedophile. No, you're still sexualizing a child. If you're looking at a child and you're saying she can't wear a tank top, a spaghetti sleeve, she can't wear a jumpsuit, she can't wear a dress because it's too short, that's sexualizing children, and that's something that you need to deal with, but do not force that onto my siblings. And every time I go back home, I always teach them new things, because I don't want them to have to grow up with the same things that I grew up with not feeling comfortable to wear certain outfits, because one, I used to be very, very heavy set. So not only did I feel unconfident about my body, but there were still things that people would tell me like, oh, well, you can't wear that dress, it's too short, and you know, you're a little bit too big and stuff like that. So it's like, we're not gonna be raising the next generation of kids with these biases and with this internalized misogyny. And you have to start these conversations at young. I tell my sister about misogyny. I tell her about the things that go on in my life, not everything.
She doesn't need to know everything.
She doesn't need to know everything, but I'm very open with everything that goes on with my life, everything that people I don't feel comfortable with, and I try to really express the fact that they have the right to say no. You don't let anyone, I don't care how old they are, do not let anyone tell you, oh, well, you have to do this because I said so. No, you don't. As long as I'm around, as long as you're my siblings, if you don't feel comfortable with someone, you tell me that. No, you don't like the way that someone's telling you need to change your outfit, tell me, because I'm not going to force you to do anything. And my mom, she hates it because like we argue a lot, but it's like she kind of just gave up and gave me the reins, like high-key. But I tell her, I'm like, I've gotten into arguments with her friends before, because in the Black community, everyone thinks that they're your parent, which sucks, because it's just like, yes, I've known you all my life, but at the end of the day, you did not provide for me, you did not nurture me, you did not pay for any of my bills. There's nothing that ties me to you. There's nothing that ties my family to you. Just because you have some weird sense of familial obligation or whatever between us does not mean that you get to tell me what to do. And there's been times where I'll go out with my sister, because I take them to the movies, I take them to restaurants, and I dress up really nice, and I have her dress up really nice, and I call it a date, and we'll walk the street. It's not even late, because I don't like going out late with my sister, but like the dudes in my neighborhood, whatever, the ones that hang out on the corner, they'll be like, oh, well, we're watching you, we want to make sure that no guys are so-and-so, this, that, and third, because you know that dress is short. And it's like, I don't think that you understand that while your intentions might be good and you're saying you're looking out for me, you're effectively, you're turning me into an object. You're saying that, oh, well, you know, you're a piece that people see you as property, which is the truth in life. That's what a lot of men do, but I don't need you to perpetrate that narrative. I need you to stop it. I need you to correct yourself and educate yourself, rather than being like, I'm gonna further play into this stereotype, this narrative of, well, she can't go outside wearing that because she's gonna get looks from so-and-so people, or my friends, I don't want my friends to look at you like, you know, my friends are horn dogs. Why don't you check your friends? It should never become a problem where you're checking me for what I'm wearing. If I come outside in shorts and my butt cheeks are hanging out, and you're like, oh, well, I don't want my friends to talk to you. I understand that. I grew up with you, so I'm gonna be cordial and I'm gonna be respectful, but you need to check your friends, because why are they looking at me? And this has been something that I've always had a problem with, like, since 15. Like, I had someone that I knew literally all my life tried to talk to me, and like I started to realize, like, started to groom me basically. Like he would say little things here and there, and it's like, oh, you're losing weight, or oh, you're growing up really, really good, etc., etc. And I'm just like, you make me feel uncomfortable, especially because you used to babysit me, my guy. Like, that's weird. Why are you talking to me like this? And why are you only making these comments when my mother's not around or when other men aren't around? So now I see what your intentions are. I see that you're saying little things to me here when I go to store at night for my mother, because yes, my neighborhood is like the hood, high key, but not really. I still feel comfortable to walk out on the streets at night just because there's also that sense of everyone knows my mother, everyone knows me, so it's always someone looking out for me. But why is it that I'll go to the store at night and I'll be wearing like my pajama shorts and a shirt and a jacket, and you're trying to talk to me as I'm at the corner store paying for my sandwich? Why? That's not something I need. And then as soon as someone else comes, it's like stops. It's like, oh, I'll see you later. No. And it sucks because now I have this sense of I can't tell anyone about it just because you're friends with everyone that I'm friends with. You grew up with my family, you know my mother, when if we wanted to be frank, I can call you out for this right now, but I don't want to cause an issue. And that's something that I've been trying to work on in terms of men just doing stuff that they shouldn't be doing. Like, you're grown. There's no reason why a 24-year-old should have been interested in a 16, 17-year-old. Oh, when do you turn 18 again? That's nasty. I'm sorry, that is disgusting. And it boggles my mind that there are people like that, but what can you do, honestly?
Yeah. I mean, that's also kind of like why girls travel in packs. Because, like, you'll always have someone that you know having your back.
Yeah.
So if a dude does try to approach you and like talk to you, there'll be a friend there to cut in and just get you on your way.
Even then, like, my friends, I'm the mean friend. So my friends do not go out with me because, like, if you're on the street, there's something that I've been working. I used to, like, when dudes on the street would catcall, like, say stuff to me, I would just be like, oh, haha, like, keep it, you know, have a good day, and like, keep it cute, keep it nice and respectful. But there was this one time I was on the phone with my mother. This was when I was in high school, and this man was at least 25. Like, I could tell he was at least 25. Like, I'm on the phone with my mom, and I'm like eating food because it's the city. That's what we do. You walk and eat your food. So I'm walking from my best friend's house, and it's like my best friend and my mom are on three-way, and she's talking to me. My mom has me on speaker, and she's like around all of like these hood dudes, and they're like, "Oh, hi, Destiny, what's up, whatever." And as I'm walking past this group of men, I call my mom because I felt uncomfortable. All you hear in the phone is, "Hey, yo, shorty, can you share some with me?" And my mom heard the man's voice, and she was like, "Who is that?" And there's like several people in the background. Who is that talking to me? Where you at? I'm coming to you. And I was just like, now there's gonna be like, now I'm creating a problem, and that's not something I wanted to do. But why did this person follow me halfway home? Literally, I wasn't going home. I was like going to like our park because the park is right next to my house. But I was going to the park to go meet my mom, and I'm just like, I'm gonna be honest with you. Like, in my neighborhood, like I was like, I have like gangbanger cousins. I was like, I don't think you want to come to like this neighborhood and follow after me. Just not trying to cause any problems for you. And he's like, okay, well, give me your number, we're not leaving until I get your number because I want to get to know you. So then I did the thing that anyone does. I gave him a fake number, and I was like, yeah, whatever. I gave him the number of like some random person, but
a poor random person.
They're probably like, wait a minute, what happened? But it kills me because you can't say no out of fear of they're gonna get violent, and that happens a lot, especially like in my neighborhood. Going to high school, I went to this school called Claire Barton, and it has its own reputation in the city. And like we were on Franklin Avenue, and there was this one time where my friend told me, I didn't walk with her that day, but she's like, there was this group of dudes trying to talk to her, and they got physical with her because she was like, I don't need to talk to you, like I have a man, and like he literally put his hands on her and like pulled her hand and was like, where are you going? Like, stop. That should never be okay. So not only do I have to fear walking past a group of men at any given time in the day or night, I also have to make sure that I tailor my response to fit your ego, so that I don't deflate your ego, which is something that I don't think a lot of people, I don't think that men realize that a lot of women do this. We always constantly have to think about how we present ourselves. Like if we walk past a group of men, if they catcall us, we have to make sure we give the right response, because a lot of the time, especially if you live in a major city, that could be the end of your life, because you never know who you're like, you know, who you're rebuffing. You never know who you're dealing with. So it's like, it's annoying that I have to think about that, and I'm really abrasive and mean. So now when people talk to me Like, I'm sorry, I'm gonna let the Brooklyn out. Like, who you talking to? Who you talking? Because you're not talking to me. And they're like, oh, you're bugging, da 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 da. You're not talking to me. Thank you. Have a good day. And I keep walking, and my friend's like, oh my God, you didn't have to be so mean. No, don't talk to me on the street like that, especially when it's me walking past the corner store and it's you and 4 other men. No. You think I'm gonna come over and be like, oh hey, let me give you my number, let me slap? No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Don't do it. Because now your feelings are gonna be hurt. And now I have to fear that you're gonna be very reactionary toward me because of what I said. But I don't have time to keep giving out kindness and niceness to men that do that because they don't deserve it.
Tell it how it is. Oh, so going kind of with that, I have a tiny story that kind of resonates with how women are perceived and how we're supposed to be. So it's a little hard for me to talk about, but I've talked about it many of times. So I dated a guy, we just broke up in May, and I have this thing where I can't have sex. I am unable to. I suffer from this thing that if I do, I have extreme pain, and it causes me to have panic attacks, which it shouldn't. So you can imagine me the first time that I ever had sex, that when that happened, I got very concerned, and then it kept happening. And I was so scared to tell my mother. And when I did, it was almost like it came back to slap me in the face. Because my mom is a wonderful woman, and she never means to do any wrong ever, but she made a comment about how I should try harder because my ex and I stopped having sex. We did it for 6 months and then we broke up. And my mom told me that, he has his needs. And it was that kind of thing that it hit me because it's not my fault. I can't do anything to fix it. I've been to doctors, I've been to therapy, and I can't fix it. And that's the whole thing. And we ended up breaking up, and I don't know if that was one of the reasons, but I know that was he would get so mad about it. He was never really all that happy that we weren't, because we were a 2-year relationship, and we're 20-year-olds in college. And his girlfriend comes to visit, and all his friends are assuming he's gonna get some, and instead she's passed out on the bed at 9 o'clock. So it was it's still very hard for me. I haven't been in a relationship, I haven't been on a date, I haven't tried to go on a date, and it's that whole fear of, because I can't do the one thing a woman should be able to do, and that's because this society has put pressure on us that we should be able to do this one thing. We should be able to.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
Society puts
pressure on us. Puts
But
pressure.
that's not something you should do.
Yeah, it's not.
Pop out the babies,
Yeah. which is another thing. I, at a young age, told my mom I didn't want to have kids.
Yep.
As I've gotten older, my thoughts have changed, but that's due to me being told in 7th grade that I may never be able to have children. So I suffer from a back condition that causes me to not be able to possibly carry children to full term. So, you tell a 7th grader that, and the only thing that you're putting her value on is if she can carry kids or not. That's going to put a lot of stress on a 7th grader for the rest of her life. So, to me, I don't see it as I should have kids. I see it as I want to have kids just to prove the doctor's wrong. But when I would tell my family members that I didn't want to have kids, that because I wanted to adopt, that was that has always been my big thing, is that I want to adopt children, because a lot of times you see the kids that are normally adopted, and I've read statistics on this, they're normally white, blonde hair, blue-eyed babies. And growing up, I didn't have the white baby dolls. I had the black baby dolls because I'm a ginger. And if you walk into a toy store as a little tiny ginger that's paler than pale can possibly be, and you walk in and none of the dolls look like you. None of them. And you're looking around and you're like, but Mom, where's the doll for me? No, I have all the black Barbies. I have all the black baby dolls because I thought they were the most beautiful dolls. I could care less about the blonde-haired dolls. I thought they were ugly. I was like,
I feel very offended.
But you know, like as a little kid, I thought they were so ugly because they were the same like everyone else. But
Again.
but you know, I was told from like my parents' friends. Like my parents' friends thought it was weird because they're like, doesn't she want a baby doll that looks like her? Because in their mind, the only thing I was gonna be good at was gonna be having kids. So they wanted to prep me for having children. And it was like, but I want to adopt kids. And then when I would tell family members that, they'd be like, you're gonna change your mind. You're gonna want your own kids. And it's like, why are you like why are you telling me that I have to have my own children? Why can't I be someone who takes in these kids that they lost their families, or their parents couldn't take care of them, or something happened to them? It's like, don't put this pressure on me to have children and to have my own kids. If I adopt kids, they're my own kids. Because you want to know what? They're going to look at me as their mom, and I'm going to look at them as my kid, and I'm going to love them the same amount as I would love a kid that I gave birth to. And I feel like there's this whole societal pressure for women to have kids, and you know, to
like that's the only thing we're good for.
Yeah,
to have kids and have sex, like
yeah,
and cook in the kitchen.
Yeah,
which we're supposed to be like good cooks in the kitchen. Oh, I can tell you right now, my mom is not a good cook. She cooks everything from a box. Like, love you, Mom, but like she cooks everything from a box.
Yeah, no, I can't cook. I can. I'm trying to think. What can I make? And that's all the time we have for today, folks.
Tune in next time for more fun and games.
Be sure to check out the other shows right here on PSTV, like Inside the News, Platt's Life, Mockingbird, and Focal Point.
Also check out Turn It Up, Talk Nerdy to Me, and Cardinal Sports.
That's all from A Squared.
See you next time!
Hello, I'm Allison.
And I'm Allison.
And welcome to A Squared.
You killed me too.
Hey,
you didn't have to do that laugh.
Woo!
Fast.
I don't know.
I'm like,
We're like
straddling.
Recording this.
Okay, go down to D block.